one of my goals this year is every week I listen to an hour of podcasts, which not just have on the background, actually listen to them. So
an hour?
Yeah, no, a day.
Oh, a day. Okay.
Every day, every week, at least a day, 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at, because I listen at 3x speed, I listen to usually a day in a day. I listen to 8 hours or so in the 3 to 4 hours I actually have to listen to books.
See, and I like
because I listen at 3x speed, I listen to usually a day in a day. I listen to 8 hours or so in the 3 to 4 hours I actually have to listen to books.
See, and I like
because I listen at 3x speed, I listen to usually a day. All right, I'll stop that now.
No, it depends on the podcast for me, but I'm up to like 2.4 to 2.7.
Yeah.
And I have found just that like when I get over 2.7, it's like it's skipping. And I use Podcast Addict has my player, and I don't know if it could be a limitation of my crappy phone, but it just seems like it's not that I'm not comprehending everything at that speed, but it's like there's just stuff missing. And sometimes when they say a specific like proper name, like I was listening to this one website and they referenced this website, or I was listening to this one podcast and they referenced this website, and I was like, what was that? Rewind. What was that? Rewind. What was that? And then I had to slow it down to 1x. And this, of course, how somebody looks is no idea how they sound, but she sounds beautiful and intelligent and smart. And then I listen to her at 1x and she sounds like a retarded imbecile.
Sounds drunk. Yeah.
Yeah. Then when I'm listening to the podcast at like 2.6 or 2.7, it's like, that sounds normal too.
Yeah, I can listen to a podcast at 3x, and it sounds perfectly normal. And then somebody comes up to me and starts talking to me, at normal 1x speed, and that sounds perfectly normal too. My brain just shifts context and says, "Oh, this is a live person." It's crazy how that works.
But I don't know. Some of like the foreign accents are bad, and I can't do them that fast.
If I'm listening to a show that has call in, like a radio show, I have to bring it down because the phone is just bad. All right. I'm going to keep talking regardless of whether or not you say anything.
All right. So I don't really have much to say. I'm looking at the multicolored show note spectacular that we have up and watching your color balance go out and come back. And all of this stuff happens in a grand scale. It's like the circle of life. So was that enough filler?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I think I got rid of that, and it just turned out just to be a loose cable. I had to jiggle it. The old jiggle the cable problem.
And it did work. So,
all right, let's go ahead and make with the showing of the making of the showing.
Audacity is audacifying.
Oh yeah, I should probably do that too. Movies and stuff. Oh, God. You're being way too loud in there! Apparently, but my youngest child broke her arm. Not a bad break, but that means that she needs help with certain things. And hair washing and things like that is one of those things. And so the middle sister has stepped up and said, I'll be happy to help that, which apparently involves yelling and dancing and tribal mating rituals. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in there, but it sounds like the most exciting hair washing I've ever heard in my life.
Ah, yes. You didn't grow up with sisters, Mark, so of course neither do I, but I've heard tell.
Yeah. Children are loud. All right, let me go ahead and get my timers up. So I think maybe I just want one big 50-minute timer for this show, because we're just going to let this one run how it runs.
Alrighty. Are we even going to do the Kindle stuff, or is this all going to be?
We'll see how it goes. If we get to it, we get to it.
Okay, because I mean, I just I don't want to like rush through the my stuff just to get to that. If it so I was just curious.
Yeah. So if you click on that first timer link, I've changed it from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. That's the show timer. So we'll just go until it runs out.
Okay, because when I pull it up, it's at 4:59, 4 minutes and 59 seconds for the warm up one.
Yeah. I just try refreshing it.
Okay. So open in a new tab and 4 minutes, 59 seconds.
Okay. Well, maybe it used a different URL when I changed it. So I'll post it in the Hangout chat here, just so as not to mess up any notes or anything. Try that one.
Yes, it's okay to redirect me. 49:58.
There we go.
And Kate Upton, looking like Kate Upton, has their ad.
Yeah, I have uBlock Origin, so no ad.
Oh.
Okay.
I would rather look at Kate Upton than uBlock Origin. So.
All right, here we go. Making a marker.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
When you hit start, it won't do it for me, will it?
No, it will. Yeah.
I have to hit.
No, when I hit start, you'll see it start.
Okay, awesome.
That's why I like that app. The downside is I turn off the sound on my end. You have to turn off the sound on your end separately. So
okay, I did that.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 316, Movies and Stuff, recorded February 25th, 2018, and brought to you by Element Opie Productions, elementopie.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Drive Time Radio for Geeks. My name is Mark, sometimes known as the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, all by his lonesome, is Seth the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hey, Seth.
Hey, Mark, and welcome us back to all of our fine Opieite faithful.
Yeah, so Miles is not with us tonight because the Apple gods decided today was the day they were doing an update, whether he wanted it or not. So he sat down at his podcasting rig, turned on his Mac. I mean, it's his fault for using a Mac, right? And it began the update process, which says this could take 45 to 60 minutes. We're not waiting for him. And I would love to say that's just an Apple thing, but as soon as I sat down and turned on my Windows machine, Skype said, "Oh, you're getting an update, buddy, whether you want it or not." So welcome to life in the world of software. Remember the days when you got to choose whether or not you wanted an update?
Yeah, and this reminds me that I have not been Apple bashing near enough lately, so I've got to figure out how to work that into this new show format. Mark, you've really you've caused me to abandon one of my passions in life.
Well, speaking of show format, we're sort of abandoning this one tonight. So last week was was supposed to be our news week, but last week I was in bed. Well, not in bed, but I was offline with the flu. I was actually feeling quite a lot better. My wife had the flu. I think I mentioned it the last time we were together. She was very ill. We ended up making a couple of trips to the ER. We went to urgent care, and her heart was racing a little bit, and the urgent care doc was like, "Well, maybe we need to go take you to the emergency room just to be safe." Well, I got that just to be safe bill today. It was $18,000 worth of just to be safe in the ER. So super excited about that.
Wait, 18,000 or 1,800?
No, 18,000. I didn't misspeak. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the price without insurance? $15?
Yeah, I don't know. So that's the amount they sent to insurance. I don't know how much the insurance is going to pay. I don't know how much my part of that's going to be. But the raw cost, because of the heart issues, because the heart was racing and the blood pressure was elevated, they did a CAT scan and they did a couple of X-rays and they pushed some medications. It all turned out to be a false alarm. But honestly, I would rather have an $18,000 false alarm than a dead wife. So, it was something I was willing to do. But yeah, in the end, the charge that they sent to the insurance company, and I have yet to find out what the insurance company is going to say about it, was just over $18,000.
And so did y'all have to go back to the hospital when you opened the bill? I mean, my gosh, that seems to me like they're creating this cycle of hospital dependence with 18. Dear Lord, that's ridiculous.
So when we talk about healthcare in the U.S. and how the system is broken, that's a fine example of how the system is broken. These all turned out to be unnecessary tests. We didn't know they were unnecessary until we run them, right? So, but at some point, somebody's got to step up and say 3 hours in the ER, it was actually closer to 6 hours in the ER, shouldn't cost $18,000. That's $3,000 an hour. That's insane.
I might be starting medical school tomorrow. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So anyway, I did such a great job of nursing her through her flu that I then got the flu. But the difference between her flu and my flu, I had the flu shot. She did not. Now you say, Mark, you got the flu shot, and you still got the flu. Thus, that is proof that flu shots are a hoax. Well, I felt kind of bad for about 4 days. She had to go to the ER and was miserable for just over 3 weeks. So the flu shot bought me like 12 days. I'll take it. Thank you very much. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have not gotten the flu shot the last couple of years because, I just didn't care. So,
well, my wife is the only one in the family that didn't get it. So far, the kids they're fine. Knock on synthetic plastic materials, because that's all I can afford to buy these days. They're all fine. But again, that to me, it's anecdotal, just like the people who say, the only time I get the flu is when I get the flu shot. Not only is that total BS, it's anecdotal evidence. So I have, my anecdotal evidence is no better than anybody else's. But in my case, the flu shot has definitely seemed to pay off in this family. So get the flu shot. Cool. But anyway, I missed last week. I was actually feeling better, but my wife, her exact words were, "You sound unpleasant." Okay. All right. I will take that under advisement. And rather than sitting here and talking like this for about an hour, I decided I would just go ahead and take the week to recuperate. So our everything has just sort of been blown out of the water. Our schedule was blown out of the water. We're down one host. So we're just going to gab tonight for a little less than an hour about a number of different things. So if you are the type of person who likes the shows where Mark and Seth just talk, this is for you. If not, we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. So before we go too much further, I mean, we have to talk about the major geek culture event that is going on right now, and that is the Black Panther. I just saw it Wednesday of this week. Seth, you saw it recently too.
Yes.
The pre-reviews going in were best Marvel movie ever, perhaps maybe best movie ever in the history of cinema. The groundbreaking, nothing like it ever before. You really need to see this movie before you die, or your life won't be worth living. Those were the kind of reviews that I was seeing going in. I'll hold my review, but I think maybe you could tell a little bit about what I think of it just by that intro. So, Seth, what were your thoughts on the Black Panther?
You know, I really, really enjoyed the movie. You know, there has been a noticeable uptick in social justice warrior creeping into films and making its, you can't say he is anymore, but making its presence known everywhere that people interact. And I didn't, okay. I mean, so Black Panther is a black superhero, but it was like, I was so psyched about the movie, and it wasn't like, hey, we have to be perfect because we're black people, and, so therefore, it wasn't like that. It was just a great movie. And so, I mean, obviously you see, hey, their skin color is different than mine, but it did not detract any way. This, to me, there really wasn't a lot of social justice warrior overtones in the film. It was just a film done awesome. There's a couple of things where it's like, you did not do a good enough job establishing part one. Subset A, you just kind of hoped we would get that in this little thing over here, but overall, it doesn't topple Avengers for me, and I don't think it topples Civil War, but it's gotta be up tops. I mean, I liked it a lot better than Doctor Strange. Very, very good. This is one of the top tier Marvel movies. So, like I say, it didn't have the ensemble cast that I was familiar with. All of the superheroes to overpace Avengers or Avengers, the real Avengers 2 Civil War. But other than that, it was like, as far as the solo movies, it's probably the best one I've seen.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I put it in the top 5 of the Marvel Cinema Universe. And actually, I hadn't thought about solo versus ensemble movies. It's probably the second best solo movie. Iron Man, the first Iron Man, still, in my opinion, is the best of the solo movies. So I would give it maybe top 4 or 5 among the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It had some pretty significant plot holes. But what it did have that no other one, again, maybe the first Iron Man came closest, was a sympathetic villain. A villain who, when you looked at him, you thought, okay, I get why he's doing that. I can see why he's mad at the world. I get that.
Yeah.
And that just hasn't happened in any of the others. I mean, again, Obadiah Stane, the tired of being second banana in Iron Man 1, but again, his response was way over the top. It was like, okay, I have a reason for him to maybe, try to be corrupt, try to take over the company, but to be, a mass murderer, that didn't hold. But the character in this one, played by Michael B. Jordan, and a really outstanding actor in his own right, and I'm really talking in vague generalities here because I don't want to be accused of spoilers. His motivations are believable. And his reaction to it, while they are over the top, it's a cartoon movie. Of course, it's over the top. It's cartoons, or comic books rather. So I enjoyed the movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. There were some visuals that were just, I really felt, we've gone all the way back to the Matrix again with some of the visuals. They were just really bad, and I've come to expect so much more in the. Civil War, Winter Soldier, when we first were introduced to, Seth, are you still there?
I'm hearing just a few words of yours.
All right. Well, all right. I'll continue. When we were first introduced to the Black Panther, he was so well done. He was fully CGI throughout that movie, and I wouldn't have known it had I not read an article about it later. This one, it was they played the blend of CGI and real. The real effects were kind of cheesy. The real suit I didn't like that much, and the CGI was overly CGI. But again, I'm nitpicking. I'm talking about supermodel with ugly toes. It was a good movie. If you enjoyed any of the Marvel movies at all, you'll enjoy this movie. And yes, most of the cast happens to be black. And I like the fact that they didn't really overplay that fact. It just happened to be a movie that takes place in Africa. And yes, most of the people in Africa happen to be black. So that was just the setting of it. And it wasn't a thing that we hung our hat on, and I appreciated that. So Black Panther, go see it.
Yeah, really, go see it. I mean, I would think you really don't have to be, you don't have to see every Marvel superhero movie to get to the point of this one. This could be the only Marvel movie you've seen, and anything you didn't know going in, they reveal. It's not like, you need to know this 40 hours worth of cinema backstory before you step in here, or you're going to be lost for the entire movie. No, it's like, you could just go see Black Panther. What's that? And then, and it'd be really good. And I like the way you put it. It was because in times past, people have, whether it be television studios or movies or comic books or whatever, have tried to force some type of minority upon its, viewing audience or listening audience or whatever. In comic books, you know, in times past, it was like, hey, let's make a superhero that has to be black and let's try to make him compelling. Or, you know, let's make one of our characters all of a sudden gay because that's the buzzword in Hollywood. And, you know, and so this was just a movie set in a place where everybody there, and not everybody, most of the people are going to be black, and it works great. I didn't feel any type of, you know, black people better, you know, we're getting our turn. It was just a great movie. And I've seen some on the internet, but not much, you know, trying to play the race card in relation to the movie. And the movie kind of just rejects that and exists as just a great movie. But like I say, there are some plot holes, but you know, any comic book movie is going to have some plot holes because you can't read a comic book without finding the plot holes in it. So.
Right. My favorite racial related post that I saw was that Andy Serkis played Gollum, and the other guy, I can't think of his name right now, played the Hobbit, played Bilbo Baggins. They were the two Tolkien white guys in the movie. I liked it.
That's cool.
And another thing I wanted to talk about, Seth, you probably haven't seen it yet, is a Netflix Altered Carbon. I finished the series. I don't remember if I talked about it at all previously, other than the fact that it's bordering on soft porn, and that's a pretty big disclaimer. It's a really good story, and I was really pleased with it. It is cinematically beautiful, and I use that word cinematically. It is like a movie. It is like a 10-hour movie. Very Blade Runner-ish visuals. Some of the it's over-the-top violence and over-the-top sex, and some of it is necessary because it talks about a future in which the humans have evolved beyond their own body. They can move between bodies. In fact, they don't even call them bodies; they call them sleeves. The sleeve is just the thing that you are wearing. You change your sleeve just like you might change your shoes. And so you have to disregard the sanctity of the human body when you're in that environment, or rather you have to represent that they have disregarded the sanctity of the human body. So killing a sleeve doesn't mean anything. Blood doesn't mean anything. Nudity doesn't mean anything. Sex doesn't mean anything. So part of it is necessary for the storytelling. Not all of it. I think they went over the top on both the blood and the sex. But the story is a good story. It's a film noir. It's a classic detective noir that takes place 400 years in the future, to the point where the guy wears a trench coat and smokes all the time. And it is all the classic tropes of a detective film. I mean, morose narration over the scenery. It is all those things. All those things that you come to expect from a 1950s Humphrey Bogart detective noir, but set in a futuristic environment. And that, for me, is what I loved about it. It was just taking two genres, both of which are pretty cheesy, and slamming them together in a way that somehow transcends them both. So I recommend it. Again, very adult. And the sex is so over-the-top sex. I mean, like, I'm not sure you could have it on Cinemax. It is that over-the-top. But... Wow. Overall, the taken all 10 episodes as a whole, I really enjoyed it. And you can't comment because you haven't seen it. So,
well, I mean, I did see the previews, and it did look super interesting. So it's on my I want to see it list because it. And I love how, you know, we'll change the background from, you know, 40s, 50s to the future, but will make the movie seem so familiar is the right word. And so you're kind of drawn in because it's something you're used to. And then a lot of times they'll kind of set the movie in the past, but, you know, switch up the tropes or whatever. So even though it's different, it still seems familiar because, oh, I'm used to movies set in the 1980s, right. You know, so it's that cognitive dissonance is something I'm sure they actively set out to engage as part of what makes it so unique and enjoyable.
Yeah, and one of the main characters, you know, the guy who's smoking all the time, somebody even comments on the fact, you know, those things are bad for your health, right? He was like, I hate smoking, but this sleeve is a nicotine addict. And it's like, you know, the I have to do what the sleeve wants, even though I don't like it. And the idea is that we all have stacks in the future. It's a technology that stores our memories. The essence of the human is stored in the stack, and the stack can be moved from body to body. Or if you're incredibly rich, you could back up your stack onto a different system, and actually what they call needle cast, move your essence from one thing to another, from one sleeve to another, without having to move the stack. And there's a scene, I mean, minor spoiler alert, but there's a scene where this character fights the clones of another character. And so it's really, it's audacious in its doing. There's 8 naked women fighting because they're all clones that are coming out of their, cocoons or whatever, and they're naked, but they're all the same person, and this person's just jumping from one naked clone to another, and it's audacious in its filmmaking, but again, also just way over the top, but in such a way that it's like, we meant to do that. You couldn't say that was an accident. You intentionally went over the top on the nakedness there when you have 8 naked clones fighting each other, doing karate moves at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I wonder. But like I say, just even if you've never seen it, you should go watch the YouTube trailer on it, because just the trailer itself was fascinating. Yeah. And then based on Mark's description, then see if you want to see it. But anyway, it could be really cool. Don't
have the kids anywhere near, though. Just don't. And then something you can take your kids to, and in fact, my kids dragged me to. I really hate musicals. I hate music. Let me make sure I'm expressing myself fully here. I hate musicals. But because I am surrounded by women, most everything I watch is a musical. Now, they tend to be animated musicals. But the thing I hate most about musicals is that all of a sudden, everybody knows the words to the song and the steps to the dance. It doesn't bother me, like opera doesn't bother me, because the whole thing is sung. That's the conceit. You just set the rules from the beginning. Everything is sung and danced. But musicals move in and out of real world, and then real world where everybody knows the words and the dances, and then back in, and nobody notices, like, what the heck just happened here? Why did all 19 people on this street suddenly start doing the same dance? That bothers me. It's like an intellectual slap in the face for me when that happens. Now, with that intro, we saw The Greatest Showman with huge jacked man, Wolverine, playing P.T. Barnum, and I loved it. I loved the movie. I loved the music. I loved the drama. I loved the campiness of it. It was a lot of fun. Even though I hate musicals, my kids dragged me to this musical, and I loved it. So, The Greatest Showman, the musical for people who hate musicals.
I have not seen it, and it just doesn't capture my interest from what I have seen, the trailers and stuff. So I'm not surrounded by women who would drag me to that sort of thing anyway. So, this is probably one. I mean, if I happen to run across it on cable someday, or satellite like I have, or whenever it makes its way over to the streaming services, maybe. But it just doesn't look like something I would enjoy.
Yeah, it's the heavily Hollywoodized version of P.T. Barnum. And the beginning of the Barnum Circus. Much of the history is, fictitious or heavily dallied with, but it's a compelling story. The music is really good. It's very modern music, even though the setting is, early turn of the century setting. So that to me creates an interesting juxtaposition between the setting and the music, in much the way the Heath Ledger Night movie. I can't remember the name of it.
A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale. In much the same way that it did. It took, medieval times and played We Will Rock You in such a way as to actually make it kind of believable. Another musical that I enjoy, and I'll watch it every time it's on. It's a guilty pleasure. And I hate musicals.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Yeah. So this is a similar treatment. If you liked one, you probably like this one.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe.
And then I don't know what this is, Seth. Origin Mystery? Tell me. I'm assuming it's a book.
Okay, it's actually a 3-book series. The guy's name is A.G. Riddle. The first one is called The Atlantis Gene. So this is kind of like the origin of, how humans became humans. And it's this 3-book series. I saw it. It's a Kindle Unlimited science fiction movie, and I was looking for something. It's like, okay, I finished the zombie, Arisen series, and I read a couple other zombie books, and I was like, okay, I'm ready for something besides zombies. And this one piqued my interest. So the first one is called The Atlantis Gene, and so it's, the story of Atlantis is based on truth in this, and humanity's evolution is not so much evolution, but reprogramming by an alien species. And it comes out, I was disappointed with the third book, but the first 2 were pretty good. Because by the third book, well, anyway, I spoilers, there's 3 books. So it was very interesting. I liked the take on history, and kind of an Illuminati type thing, but they're not called the Illuminati, existing through history, trying to better the human race. It's so hard to talk about this stuff and stay in the non-spoiler mode, because they haven't been out for a long time. But one of the things I found out after reading it is at least the first book is they're making it into a movie, and this is like CBS Pictures and not like The Asylum found it one day. So, but all in all, I think it was an interesting book. It starts out, moves into action pretty fast. The action keeps up well. Some of it takes place in World War I, and they tie it all together. And within the world building they create, it's very believable. Just an interesting origin of the species and how we got here, kind of thing. So.
All right, and then the next one, I get emails from Netflix from time to time. Hey, we've added something you might like, and because my whole family shares my account, it's often something like the new My Little Ponies movie or some new Disney Star movie. Well, the one I got, I think it was just today, was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And just reading the description and looking at the cover art, I was like, nope, not for me, Netflix. You got this one wrong. But apparently, it is for Seth.
Yes, this is anime. So if you're not an anime fan, you might not like it. And so, okay, there's the manga Full Metal Alchemist, and then there was the anime series Full Metal Alchemist, which was based on the manga, but was different enough that you weren't just seeing the manga kind of played out. Well, they redid, and so this is another series, anime series, but it sticks closer to the manga. And anyway, so Full Metal Alchemist, alchemy is it's transmutation. You can't create something, but you can transform, like dirt into a sculpture or something like that. And the law of equivalent exchange, you can't take a penny and make 1,000 tons of gold, but you could take, like a ton of sand and make a ton of gold or something. If you could get and in this series, alchemy is science. They're researching how to do like biomolecular stuff and all of that. And of course there's the background evil that they have to uncover and all of that. And so anyway, I just started binge watching it yesterday. And I got through like 20 something episodes. I didn't do much yesterday, but watch Full Metal Alchemist, because, here in East Texas, we have just finished up the rainy season, where I think it was like for a week straight, we had rain for most of the day. And it might not have been this hard pouring rain, but one of the roads out of my house did flood and I had to go the other way. But so, it was like, the ground is so soft, I don't want to go walking in it and cake mud everywhere. So, hey, let me watch TV. And Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, it not only came to Netflix, it also came to Amazon Prime, and that's where I'm watching it. But if you enjoyed, and to me, this is one of the great anime series, and I think it's like 60 something episodes long. So it's not like an ongoing thing that's forever and ever. It's kind of done with, but it's just really well done. The story is good. The characters are very compelling. And like most Japanese animation, they deal with some, okay, in America, cartoons are for kids, but in Japan, anime is just another form. Like you have drama, you have comedy, you have reality shows, and you have anime. And so even though it's animated, some of the concepts they get into are pretty adult stuff, like kids losing their parents and trying to cope with the grief and dealing with the consequences of actions they took as a result of that grief. And just really, really good. If you like good stories, you will probably like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I think. Now, Mark, I don't think you personally would like it, Mark, because it's not in your wheelhouse. But just to the listening, that one person who's still listening to the show at this point, he would probably like it.
I do enjoy some Japanese-style animation. Kubo and the Two Strings I thought was great. Some of the Totoro stuff I've enjoyed. And I think that's probably why Netflix said, hey, this is for you. But just that everything you described there sounds not uninteresting to me. Not boring. I don't blame you for being interested in it. It's just, doesn't sound interesting to me.
Yeah. So, yeah. But to me, it's really well done. And I liked the manga, and I liked the other Full Metal Alchemist series. I originally found them on Adult Swim, and I watched a couple episodes, and I went, I wonder if there's a manga of this, and I got super into the manga, and anyway, and then now I'm getting to watch this series too. So good stuff for me.
Cool stuff. And you need to get all your binging done because you may actually have a job in the near future. Yes,
the in-person interviews are round 3. So I have made it to round 3 of a job for, getting back into the IT field. Yay, possible job. So
nice. So the Bitcoin mining, it'll still make you a billionaire, but, this is just to fill your time in the meantime. Right.
I'm seriously considering selling my Bitcoin rig because it's still profitable, but it's not as profitable, and it's going to continue to go down. And I could just, like I say, I don't know. I'm considering selling it. Don't know what I would do yet, and I haven't listed it. But like I say, I'm contemplating closing the mine shaft and barring the door, or who knows, I might just put that money towards a more efficient miner.
You need to stick a wind vane on top of your house and tie it to a generator. And then you'll have free-ish energy, and then it would be totally profitable.
Well, but the hundreds of dollars to get that set up, it wouldn't work. And actually, at our house we have very poor wind, so I would have to do a combination wind solar project, and that's just.
You need a windmill of some sort. Just a weather vane will do fine, and an alternator and a battery from an old car and a UPS. So not hundreds, maybe 150, and you're good. I don't know. I doubt you can generate enough power for that.
Yeah, because this is 1,000 watts almost that it's consuming. So
it's like running your microwave all day, every day without stop.
Pretty much.
Okay, and now this is the part of the show. If you're still with us, and the pop culture stuff didn't drive you away, let's go ahead and get political and see if that can drive you away. My objective here is to make sure that nobody is still here at the end of the show. Now, I wanted to, excuse me, I'm still not all the way back yet. Sorry, I muted that cough because you didn't want to hear it.
But we did.
One of the things that has gone on in the very recent past that we have not talked about on the show is the latest high school shooting incident. An expelled child, so he wasn't actually a student, a former student at the school, got his hands on automatic weaponry and went into a school and shot people. That's my oversimplified explanation of it. And as always happens, immediately people start seeking political answers to this problem when it happens. The anti-gun people are going crazy. See, if there were no guns in the world, this person wouldn't be homicidal. Not really sure that logic flows, but that's what they're going with. And then the pro-gun people are like, we have to have our guns, we have to keep our guns. It's never okay to take our guns away from us. And the same argument comes back again and again and again. And it's something that we've addressed on this show before, but I thought it would be interesting to have a discussion. I was hoping Miles would be here because he tends to be more socially liberal than either Seth or I are. But we'll have this discussion anyway. And here's how I want to set it up. I was having lunch today with a dear friend of mine who is a U.S. resident, naturalized American citizen from Canada. So he spent most of his life in Canada, and then 15-ish years ago moved to the U.S., and then just in the last couple of years became an American citizen. So like Miles, he is a naturalized citizen from another country, a much more liberal country overall. And it was interesting as he and I had this discussion today, not a debate. That's what I like about intelligent people, is we can have an intelligent discourse without anybody being mad at anybody. And he immediately put himself into the mindset of, what can government do to prevent this from happening in the future? And not being an American, and certainly not being a Texan, as both Seth and I are, he does not understand the reverence we have for the right to keep and bear arms. And so that was an interesting discussion. And so I want to frame it in that, let's Seth, you and I, talk to my friend Dave, the once Canadian, about this situation. And so there was one thing in the conversation that he brought up that I wanted to get your thoughts on. He said, as a Canadian, he can't understand the concept, just the very mindset that we have of reverence for the Second Amendment. Like it's this unalterable, immutable thing that cannot be messed with. And to when he said that, I was like, well, yeah, that's right. It is that thing. It is an unalterable, immutable document that cannot be changed, because it's one of the founding part of our documents of our country. It's part of the Constitution. Once its amendment, right, it is woven into the fabric of the Constitution of this country. And the Constitution is the bedrock upon which everything else is built. And apparently, I'm sure that Canada has a constitution, but they don't have the same reverence for it that we do, or at least we conservative type people do. So with just that setup, Seth, what is your brain thinking right now?
Okay, well, the first thing, when I heard about this shooting, the first thing I had to do was go and check on my guns to make sure they didn't go off and perform the shooting. And they were right where I left them. So my guns were not involved in this shooting. And second of all, I just love how the media and society, media has trained society to, jump to conclusions and shape the narrative before the facts came out. One of the facts is this school had an armed security officer who sat outside during the active shooting and did not do his job. So, I don't understand the mindset, because when I went to school, it was not uncommon to have a shotgun in the back of my truck while my truck was parked on campus. And I mean, in the school, when, I'm in high school math class and the coach says, hey, does anybody have a pocket knife? And all of the guys in class pull out their pocket knives. Me, I pull out my huge Swiss Army knife, because, that's just what I carried back then. But, and he that wasn't to you guys go to the principal's office. It's like he had this, I don't remember what it was, but this thing he needed cut, and he didn't have his knife with him. So he wanted to know if he could borrow one of ours. So it was like, no problem. Here you go, coach. And so, we just have, there's an entirely different culture where people are just, I don't know. There's so many things. You ask, what could the government do? Well, how about we call this what it is, this thing that happened, evil? And, let's start when something's evil, let's call it evil, and quit trying to make everybody who knows how to spell gun into, a right-wing fascist out to murder babies. That's not the case. people who don't understand the gun culture, it's not that we love guns. We understand that when it all comes down, it's my responsibility to take care of me. It is not the government's responsibility to take care of me. If somebody is breaking into my house, I can't say, hey, could y'all wait 20 minutes while the sheriff's deputy can make it over to this side of the county and then he can protect me? No, it's like, hey, I hope you got more ammo than I do, buddy. And here's a warning shot that, if I hit you, then I'll fire another one later or something. And that's just a little, hyperbole, but I understand that it's my responsibility to protect myself. And the parts of this country that have the strictest gun laws are also the parts with the most gun violence. So I am, you can't, if you make guns illegal, then you're going to create a lot of felons because only, the good guys want to protect ourselves. And that's what the gun is. It's the ability to at least defend myself, because it's not that there aren't enough police officers. And quit trying to make the police officers guilty of everything wrong. There's so much here, and it's all jumbled up right here, and it's created a logjam at my mouth, and I really can't talk. So there's not one factor. The sarcastic person of me says, we just need more of the gun-free zone signs, because I bet what happened is he just went into a doorway that didn't have that sign posted. So if we just had one more sign, we could have saved it. It's for the children, people. Surely that's worth taxes. And and this is one of those things. We have our facts that support the necessity of private gun ownership, and the other side has their facts that support the necessity of flower pots for everyone kind of thing. And neither side wants to admit the other side's facts exist. We just call them idiots and dismiss their arguments. So
much of what you said there was tongue firmly planted in cheek. But I find it interesting that you fell into the same arguments that we had at lunch. So, and argument's not the right word, discussion. There were three of us. There was my friend who's a red-blooded Georgia redneck. His current iPhone wallpaper is his 15-year-old daughter holding an AR-15. And then there was me there, and then it was my Canadian friend, my Canadian-American friend. And everything you just said, Seth, almost word for word. It's almost like there's this cultural script. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. I had guns in high school. It's not the government's responsibility. There's a gun culture in the U.S. Those are all words. I was writing them down, as you said. Those are all words that you said and my other friend said, and that you'll hear on the news. It's the immediate defense anytime something like this happens. And I find it fascinating because it has nothing to do with a school shooting at all. And I've done it before. I'm going to do it again. Let me read to you the entire text of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. Bear with me. This is long. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whew, glad I got through that. It is a sentence. And it says, the right of the people to keep and bear. That means I can own them and I can carry them. Arms. Arms of all kinds. Not firearms, not guns, but weapons. Shall not be infringed. So when we start talking about regulation, by definition, that is infringement. If at any point you make it difficult for anybody to own any type of weapon, that is infringement. If at any point you make it illegal for any citizen to to own or keep or carry any type of weapon, that is infringement. The Second Amendment has already been stomped on millions of times, and with widespread agreement. We all agree that an American citizen should not own a nuclear explosive device. That could be protected under the Second Amendment. The right of the American citizens to keep and bear arms. There is no type of arms mentioned. There is no degree of armament. In the U.S., you can own a certain number of certain type of guns. That is infringement, my friends. By definition, all of our gun laws infringe on the Second Amendment. So when I brought that up, my Canadian friend was like, well, what is with the sanctity of the Second Amendment? Now, that's a question we can talk about. Let's not talk about a gun culture. Let's not talk about hunters. Let's not talk about defending yourself. Again, Seth, you talked about that, defending yourself. None of that is mentioned in the Second Amendment. None of that is mentioned in the Constitution. It simply says, because we need a militia. Think about why these people wanted a militia. They had just overthrown their leader, and they wanted to be able to do it again. All right? And let's say even that doesn't count anymore. None of that matters, because what the Constitution of the United States says is that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's it. There's no gray area. The foundational document of our country, the law on the word on which every law is built, the standard to which every legislation is upheld, says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So when I say I hold these words to be sacred, it's because they're the foundation of this country that I love. And when I say we don't need more laws and more infringement of rights that are already there, it's because the document is so very clear. We've muddied it with so many other things over the years, but the document itself is very clear. You want to take guns away, change that sentence. That's a thing you can do. That's a process you can go by. It's easy, actually. All you have to do is vote on it. We have repealed amendments in the past. It's a thing that our country knows how to do. You want to take guns away. You want to legislate guns. You want to make certain rules about guns. Make that sentence go away. Problem solved. But for some reason, that never comes up. That's not a thing. That's not a hill that people want to die on. That's not a thing that politicians want to invest their careers in. I don't even want to go into why that is. But if you want people to not carry guns, change that sentence. And that's why I get incensed about any infringement of my rights. Not because I'm a gun nut. I don't own a gun. I have never owned a gun. I have had family that owned guns. I grew up around guns. I have fired many, many weapons. I don't own a gun. But I do own knives. I do own other weapons. I own baseball bats. I keep and bear arms on a regular basis, Seth. I carry a Swiss Army knife with me every day of my life. That is an armament that I keep and I bear. And I hold this document sacred because it is the foundation upon which everything that I love about this country is built. So I need that sentence to either be eliminated or upheld. Those are the only two options. Eliminate it or uphold it.
Yeah, and I don't know. The thing is, it's not necessarily today's government or today's society that I'm afraid of, but I see the direction the society is taking, and it's tomorrow's society that I am afraid of. And if I don't have the ability to defend myself, who is going to defend me? Am I just going to say, hey, please stop? You have to stop because that's where my property begins, and you don't have the right to my property, unless you're an undocumented illegal alien, then apparently you have the right to everything I've ever done. But, it's just like, who is your protector? Who is your defense? Who is your source? Is your source the government? Well, if the government is your source, then you better get rid of your ability to take care of yourself because you're going to come in opposition to the government. Are you your source? By the strength of your hands, you're pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and you're educating yourself and you're going to set the world on fire. Okay, then you better do all you can to make sure you're strong and secure. I'm a Christian. I believe that God is my source and he is my ultimate defense. So, but at the same time, hey, I'm also going to protect myself. So who is your source? there's a larger portion of society every day, it seems like, who is happy with the government being their source, who has given up their ability to function on their own and worships whatever media and the government tells them they ought to worship. And those are the nut jobs that I want to be able to protect myself from. And you know, and I understand that in today's society and language, you don't use that kind of rhetoric, but whenever it all boils down to, and you strip away the political niceties, that's what each side is saying about the other. You know, government protect me from those wacko right-wing nut jobs, or it's like Smith and Wesson protect me from those left-wing wacko nut jobs. And that's what it comes down to. Two sides. And I don't remember who said the quote, but if you take away, if you stomp on our right to argue and disagree, then all we have left to do is fight. So I'm all for arguments and disagreements and debates.
And what's fascinating is Seth, as much as I respect you as an intellect, you were unable to meet me on the grounds of speaking specifically about the law and about the Constitution as it is. This is such an emotionally charged issue that these conversations about the cold definitions of the law can't be held.
Yeah, but then you've been thinking about this all day. I first saw your topic, 30 minutes ago. So,
but if you want to talk about how we stop school shootings, that has nothing to do with guns. That has to do with the fact that a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 12-year-old would ever consider murdering anyone, right? We need to talk about the sanctity of human life. We need to talk about how we change the heart of a nation. That has nothing to do with guns. And if you want to pass a law that will stop school shootings, then make it a constitutional mandate that fathers parent their children. How about that? You want to change a society? That's how you do that. How about making it a government mandate that every child is taught to respect all those around them, whether they're equal to them or inferior to them or superior to them or older and younger? How about we teach that, make that the law of the land? Then we change that. The fact that we have so little regard for human life that we would take it in any way with whatever tool happens to be at our disposal, that is the problem. And if you want to fix that with laws, then let's pass the right laws. Let's pass the laws that change the heart of a nation, not disarm a nation. Because armaments, can be anything. The gun was just a handy way for this child, not a man, for this child to murder. When we have a society where children murder, weapons, the tool to which he chooses to murder is not the problem. And we need to stop looking at the symptom instead of the disease.
Totally agree. And parents, sneak into your room whenever your kids are playing Call of Duty 2, and the language that you hear issue forth from their mouth and the speakers with the other kids, I mean, you would just, it's truly inconceivable, the language that you hear in those things, and you don't know it because the kids up in his room or her room these days, playing Call of Duty, you're working overtime or you're watching Netflix and chill or whatever. And so spend some time together. This is, I grew up in a teacher college. That's where I got my education. Mark, you did too. We spent a lot of time in education. How do you get an entire school mad at you? Have the audacity to suggest that it's the parents' responsibility to educate your children and not the government. And, and then look at where a generation of that mindset is getting us to.
It hurts my heart to know. I want to take it out of the school. I want to take it out of the fact that it was a child doing it. The fact that man would kill man is a problem. And that's the problem we need to address. And when I bring that up among intellectual people, they say things like, well, you can't change that behavior. You can't legislate that behavior. You can't make a law that changes the heart of man. Bingo. And that's all I've been saying all along. You can't make a law that changes the heart of man. Government can't fix this problem. Government didn't create this problem, and it can't fix it. And to look at government and to with a heavy heart and a titillated mind, spend all your intellect and all your energy on trying to figure out how the government, by passing a law, could have prevented a child from murdering children, is so misguided. Well-intentioned, but misguided. And that's where this discussion is going to go, right? And people are going to use a tragedy to bolster whatever. The people who are pro-gun are going to say, we need more guns. We need to give the teachers guns. We need to give the students guns. More guns is the answer. And the anti-gun people are going to say, we need no guns ever, because once you take all the guns away, the murderous intent is gone. And they're both wrong, and they're both being disingenuous. They all know that the problem is a heart problem. But we can't address heart problems by passing laws, and so they change the conversation.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of hoping we'd have somebody who could disagree with me on that. But how do you disagree with that? I challenge you, the listener. Disagree with me. Explain to me how a law changes the heart of a child. Because if this child was going to murder, he could have done it with a car. He could have done it with knives. He could have done it with rocks. He had decided to murder. The instrument of the murder is irrelevant. Let's talk about what makes a child decide to murder. And stop messing with my Constitution. Or change it. Let's hold a constitutional convention. And let's change the Constitution. It's 200 plus years old. It's outdated. It doesn't hold up anymore. Fine. Let's change it. But as long as it is the law of the land, stop stomping on it. So those are my two sentiments here.
Yeah, no, my heart is just sad for the direction the country's been taking. And
it's not the country, it's the globe.
Well, yeah, but I'm more familiar with the country than the rest of the world.
There's a great quote, often misattributed, there's no evidence that she actually said it, to Mother Teresa, that says, if you want to change the world, then go home and love your children. That's how you fix this. You go home and love your children. If that boy had had more love, and the right kind of love, he wouldn't have murder in his heart. You can talk about his mentally ill diagnosis or whatever. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The problem was not with his mind; it was with his soul.
Yep. But I don't know. It's you just. I mean, we're having the wrong conversation, and I get pulled into the wrong conversation, and I don't think about what gets me to the point to where I can. And then when you try to have the right conversation, you're drowned out because nobody cares about that. This is being exploited for political gain, just like any human tragedy since the dawn of time. It's just now we have Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and everything else, so that it just spreads faster. And it's permanent now because those videos are out there and people will always find them. It's impossible to scrub something off the net. Far too redundant.
What happens if we stop making murderers famous? Let's think about that. I don't want to cheapen this discussion by saying, Seth, what happened this week in history, or having some random thing. I just want to wrap this up because this discussion is too heavy to cheapen with the shtick that we do at the end of the show. So, Seth, I'm going to say, do you have any other final comments on this topic?
I mean, not unless we want to change this into a Christian podcast and go another hour. So,
Maybe I would love to have that conversation with you. Because definitely when we talk about changing a broken soul, I only know one way that can happen, and that's through Jesus Christ.
Me too. And unfortunately, that'll draw the ire of just about everybody these days, including a lot of people who claim to be Christians, which is just sad.
So if you, the listener, are interested in hearing me talk about my answer to the broken soul problem, I'm happy to have that discussion with you in person, via email, whatever. Go to elementop.com, use the contact button, and fill it out there, or email me, mark@elementop.com, and I'll have that discussion with you, because right or wrong, I believe in my heart that I have the answer. And I'm not interested in debating it. I'm not interested in you telling me that I don't have the answer. If you don't think I have the answer, okay, that's fine. But the world is broken, and it needs to be fixed. And I know the great fixer, and I'm happy to have that discussion with you about it. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. I think that was as good as we could have done there.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know. I've just been. Yeah, I don't know how to talk about stuff like this anymore, because I listen to this one guy, and he's all about your presuppositions that get you to the point where the words you, and so I just like, oh man, and so it's just like, I've got to stop. And so there's some Facebook groups I was really enjoying, just jumping into the fray, and then I just have to stop and go, why am I doing that? What's the point? And so I need to sit down and do some serious, like, focus, logic, rhetoric, debate type stuff, and instead of just picking it up on the fly, one video at a time. And it's I don't know.
Jinda,
so
I'm not sure
I
if
don't
you
know
were.
how to talk.
I'm sorry, Jinda. I'm not sure if you were serious or joking about thanks for cheering me up in the chat room. I hope that I did speak hope into you. That would be awesome if I did. If that was a jibe, I understand that too, because we got a little heavy-handed there. I'm gonna stick around in the chat room, and we can certainly have a talk, but I'm gonna kill the live feed now. So talk to you later.